What's up, guys? Lucky Locks here. Welcome back to another prediction video. This is going to be for LFA 118, Loveth Young coming up against Jaqueline Amorim, and this should be a pretty interesting matchup. There's a lot of matchups on here that I think are pretty interesting, and a lot of betting lines here that I also think are pretty interesting, so I'm excited to break down this LFA event. Should be pretty fun, and without further ado, let's just get right into the fights. Opening up the main card, we have a featherweight bout between Javier Garcia and Ryan Fillingame. Garcia doesn't have the most aesthetically pleasing record at 7-4, but he is a good fighter, and he's better than his record suggests. He came into the LFA with a bang, defeated AJ Cunningham as an underdog. Next fight, he finishes a tough opponent in Tim Tevez with a rear naked choke in the third round. Probably needed that one and got it done, never gave up. Garcia will always fight for your dollar. Most recently, we saw him compete against Bruno Souza for the LFA featherweight title, and Souza's in the UFC now. Garcia was able to drop him in round one and looked really good, just couldn't keep up with the technical striking and elusive counters that Bruno was bringing as the fight went on, but he did go the distance, didn't get finished. Another one of his losses was another UFC fighter in Gabe Green a while ago, and I like Garcia's durability, I like his stick-to-itiveness, his compete level, his endurance. He's just a dog in there, and he's been very active lately, with this being his fourth fight this year. He's in good form, training at CSW in California, and Fillingame is a 6-3 pro, has some pretty good names on his resume. Billy Q for one, put on a great fight with Shane Burgos at UFC 268 not too long ago, so that's not a bad loss. Fernando Padilla beat Fillingame as well, that's another good fighter, and Fillingame was supposed to fight Caleo Romero last week. The fight fell out. Garcia's opponent fell out this week, so Fillingame jumped in here, and we haven't seen this guy since 2017. I don't like the layoff. Garcia, I feel like, is in peak form right now. He's fought 3 other times this year alone, and he's fought good guys. None of his LFA fights have been easy, and I feel like Garcia's getting a bit of a step down in competition here. So I'm going to go with Garcia in this one. I love the activity of Garcia. He's been looking good, and I think he beats Fillingame this Friday. Moving on to the next fight on the card. This is a really interesting matchup at flyweight between Dione Barbosa and Jena Bishop. And Barbosa was supposed to fight Flora Hani in this bout. Short notice change, and now Bishop is across the cage from her. So the matchup went from a great striker to a great grappler. Barbosa is 3-1 as a pro. She has a win over Karine Silva, who's now in the UFC after winning on Dana White's Contender Series not too long ago. And Barbosa did lose her last match, which was against Josie Nunez, who just won her UFC debut over Bia Malecki in pretty impressive fashion. Barbosa had her moments in that Nunez fight. She was able to get her down and land some ground and pound. I mean, going to the ground with Jena Bishop is going to be a lot more difficult, but Barbosa pretty much dominated that first round with Nunez with control time and won it pretty easily. Second round, she takes her down immediately again, holds Nunez down for almost half the round. They get back up, and Barbosa just kind of circling, biding her time. Didn't look too anxious to engage with Nunez striking, and I feel like that's for good reason. She found another opening for a takedown and got Nunez down again, and the next time Nunez got up, she just unleashed hell on Barbosa against the cage and TKO'd her. So Barbosa did win 99% of that fight leading up to that point, and that's great, but the grappling I don't think is going to be as effective or as attractive of an option, as viable of an option against a decorated BJJ player like Jena Bishop. So Barbosa's going to have to strike a little bit more in this one, in my opinion, and we haven't seen Barbosa since 2019. She is fighting Jena Bishop here, who is a high-level jiu-jitsu black belt. She won IBJJF World No-Gi Championship in 2017, won the ADCC East Coast USA Trials 2019, won the IBJJF Chicago Spring Open 2015, came first place in the American Nationals in 2017, and just a whole bunch of, I could go on. The list goes on, guys. Many other distinctions in her remarkable grappling career, and she made the transition to MMA at 35 now, and won her first match this year by rear naked choke in the first round. That was against Helen Lucero, who was 1-2 at the time, now 1-3. And obviously, Bishop's strength is grappling. She is weaker everywhere else, but she is so strong in the grappling that it might be able to cancel out some other deficiencies in her game. She is taking this fight kind of short notice. So I actually took a small piece of Barbosa at plus 400 when this line opened. I don't mind Bishop being the favorite, but opening up at minus 600 in her second ever MMA fight against a fighter who has fought 2 women on the UFC roster and went 1-1 in those fights. So at the current prices, I would probably just pass here. But at plus 400, I had to take a tiny piece of Dione Barbosa, and it is just a tiny piece of her, but I am slightly invested at minus 400 there. So yeah, I'll go with Barbosa to get the upset in this one. The next fight is a strawweight bout between Alandria Brown and Sidney Trillo. And Brown has been training at Eric Paulson's gym, CSW in Fullerton, California. Javier Garcia, obviously her teammate, is on this card too. So I'm sure they've had a good camp coming in. She's 1-0 as a pro, got a submission on LFA over an opponent also making her pro debut. Brown was a 1-3 amateur fighter. Not too much footage of her out there. Looks pretty green still from what I've seen. Trillo, also a 1-0 pro, went 3-1 as an amateur, had a pretty sick head kick knockout as an amateur on Kombache, and goes to that head kick every now and then. I wouldn't be surprised to see her throw it against Brown. Trillo is a pretty good boxer, good standing, has a background there, and looks like she has some power at strawweight, lands some big shots. She's strong in the clinch, nice knees, has a bit of wrestling as well. Still very young, but very at ease in the cage, looks confident in there. And I'll be honest, I don't really have a great read on this one, but I'm going to go with the younger prospect in Sidney Trillo. I like her boxing. I like how she tries to mix it up with the wrestling too. She's had a better amateur career, and I think she is the better fighter, but I think it could be a close matchup. This one is going to be a pass for me. I don't have a great read. I don't love the price on either fighter, so I'm going to be passing on this one. But from a prediction standpoint, I guess I'm going to go with Sidney Trillo to get this one done. So that's actually going to bring us up to the co-main event of the night. We were supposed to have a flyweight matchup between Carly Pangilinan and Victor Rosas, but obviously that fell through, so we don't have that on the card anymore. I was looking forward to that one, but yeah, the co-main event, let's get right into that. Leandro Gomes and Askar bantamweight bout. Gomes is a King's MMA product. He's on a 4-fight win streak, 3 in LFA. Finished 4 out of his 6 wins. The last 2 have been decisions. And he came into the LFA at 3-1, coming off a win on Gladiator Challenge. But he was able to prove everyone wrong in that first LFA match against Anthony Jimenez and subbed him with a knee bar in round 1. Gomes likes to use kicks at range. He will switch stances to get different looks. He is decent stand-up. It's not great. He can swing wild sometimes. Head movement leaves a little bit to be desired. That said, I do think there is a possibility he clips Askar and puts him down here. But yeah, ultimately, Gomes wants to be on the ground. I've seen him pull guard to get there in the past, which isn't something I'm a big fan of. He is really good on the ground, but honestly, I haven't been super impressed with him in the clinch. Gomes is good. His grappling edge is definitely going to be key for him in this matchup. I don't know if he can win a stand-up fight against Askar. Horiyuchi was probably the best fighter that Gomes has faced, and he won a really close split decision there. I kind of think Horiyuchi won that one, to be honest. 229-28 for Leandro and 130-27 for Horiyuchi. But yeah, it was a really close fight. Askar has an 11-2 record. He's the more experienced of the two, although he is 3 years younger. He had a 6-1 amateur career from 2013 to 15, and put together an 11-2 record as a pro between 2015 and 2021. And his first loss came in his 11th pro fight, so he went 10-0 at his first loss against Saidjakub Kakramanov, who is obviously a UFC fighter now, had a really impressive win in his debut in the UFC. And after that, Askar headlined a LFA card and picked up a win over Kevin Wirth, who was 8-1 at the time. Lost his last appearance against Elevation product Justin Wetzel, where he was a -300 favorite, and now coming in as the dog to Leandro Gomes. And I think we all know the story on him by now. He was signed to the UFC, but was dropped after their doctors discovered an abnormality with his heart. He got it assessed by another doctor, got the green light, got the all clear to fight again, and it hasn't been something that's been noticeable at any point in his career, so I'm not really going to take it into account too much. Askar is a good striker. I think he has the advantage in this matchup while it's on the feet. He has good output, has a nice persistence to his offense, and I'm interested to see what the clinch work looks like here. Askar is solid in the clinch. Gomes struggled a bit with Horiyuchi there. Askar's grappling is decent, but I don't think he should try to prove how good it is in this fight. I think he should look to keep this one standing, and I think he will be the fighter moving forward while Gomes circles the outside. I see Gomes shooting for some takedowns, maybe once or twice per round. But I think this is going to be a close fight. So, I mean, I guess from a prediction wise, I guess I'll pick Gomes to win. I think he is probably is the better grappling upside in this one, but I really don't trust him at all at the price. I mean, Askar at +200 or better seems kind of juicy. This guy was -300 in his last fight against a good prospect from a major gym. Now he's +200 here. This guy was signed to the UFC. It doesn't really make that much sense. He opened up +120. That's probably around where he should be. If this line keeps going, I may actually have something on Askar here. But I'm probably going to pass on this one. And purely from a prediction standpoint, I'll probably go with Gomes. But yeah, I don't trust him at all at the price. I'm just going to double check what what he is lined at now, just get the most accurate line we can. So yeah, around minus 265, minus 270 for Gomes. I really don't trust him there, to be honest. So yeah, that one is probably going to be a pass for me on this card. So we've arrived at the main event for the vacant LFA strawweight title, and we have a great match between Jaqueline Amorim and Loveth Young. So Amorim is a jiu-jitsu player extraordinaire. She was the New York Spring International Open champion for the IBJJF event there in 2017, was the IBJJF Atlanta International Open champ in 2017 as well, and she's placed at many, many other events, you know, as is the case with a lot of these jiu-jitsu specialists. She was a world champion in gi and no gi at purple and brown belt levels, and she uses that grappling to win her fights, as you might expect. I mean, she hasn't had a fight go over 2 minutes yet. 4-0, 3-round submissions, 1 KO. And she has fought 2 fighters making their debut and 1 with a losing record. Had her last fight with Megan Owen where she flatlined her in 10 seconds. And, you know, that fight was really over before it started. I just think it probably would have lasted a little longer. I still think Amorim would have won. But she just really hasn't had a tough test yet, or even really had to face any adversity on the MMA side so far. So her fights, to be honest, have been kind of, you know, they're not super high level. Her opponents look like they don't want to be there kind of immediately, and Amorim is able to pass guard like a knife through butter and get a submission. I think that's not going to be really the case here. I think she's going to face a lot more resistance from Loveth Young. Amorim will have a nice reach advantage over Young here. Amorim has a 67.5-inch reach, which is pretty long for 115 pounds. That's definitely going to help her with the grappling, and I'm just not sure about her stand-up game. The 10-second KO didn't quite convince me. It was impressive, but didn't quite do the trick here. Loveth Young, the Nigerian Terminator, made her pro debut against Cynthia Arcio, who we've seen in LFA. Arcio was 4-0 at the time. The fight ended as a draw on a split technical decision because of an accidental eye poke, and the rematch saw Loveth Young get a round 1 rear naked choke. That's a tough debut fight, or tough debut fights, you could say, but it was the same fighter both times. That's tough. You know, she was 4-0. We've seen her in LFA. You know, Arcio is a legit martial artist, and Young jumped into deeper water in her first fight than Amorim has yet in her whole career. And the next fight that Young had, she lost a decision to Vanessa Demopoulos, and no shame there. One of the better LFA strawweights we've had in the past few years. And is now a UFC fighter, so I don't feel like that's really a bad loss in your second ever fight. So next fight, Young gets a bit of a step down in competition against Rena Norville and KOs her in the first round. Most recently, we saw her fight an Invicta veteran in Kelly D'Angelo in January, where she was able to win on punches in the second round. And Loveth Young has a 100% finish rate to match Amorim's 100% finish rate, but I feel like she's doing it against better competition. Loveth Young hits super hard. She's very physical, very athletic. Her physique is pretty wild, man. Very muscular, a lot of fast twitch muscle fiber. And if this fight stays standing, it should be Young all day. I feel like she's the better striker and by far the harder hitter. She will have to close the distance on the longer Amorim, but I think she'll be able to do that. Young is also pretty fast. She likes to touch you up with that jab, really firm right hook. So I'm going with Young here. I think Young is going to show Amorim her first bit of adversity, and I think Amorim is going to be a little discouraged when she feels that power, and I think Loveth Young is going to live up to her nickname, the Nigerian Terminator, and find a finish here. So I bet Young as soon as this line dropped at plus 300, which is just the most absolutely insane line that I've seen in a while, man. Plus 300 on Loveth Young. That's crazy. She's now moved from, she was minus 200 all the way down from plus 300 to minus 200 at one point, but on average now she's come back to about minus 146. So there has been, she got, you know, steamed as soon as that opener came out, got up to minus 200. Then people started taking Amorim a little bit, but I think even at minus 160, even at minus 135, which is the best price you can get Loveth Young for, she's still the side to me. I'm super happy with my plus 300 ticket. That's probably one of the best bets I've made all year. So super pleased with that. And yeah, I think Loveth Young is going to win this one. She hits really hard. She's very athletic, and I feel like she's faced much tougher competition and just has a better overall MMA game here. But Jaqueline Amorim definitely has looked very impressive and really hasn't left much to complain with 4 first-round finishes in her 4 fights. So it should be a great fight to determine the new strawweight champion in LFA. and I'm really looking forward to it. So that's going to do it for my picks, guys. Hopefully you guys have a good weekend. Best of luck with anything you choose to bet on. And as always, take care. I will catch you on the next video.